Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
May 21, 2020, the Ghost of Ghosn edition. First up, can you social distance when a dam fails and floods your town? Well, the Central Michigan City of Midland is going to find out whether this can be done, as not one but 2 dams failed, drenching, soaking, and flooding the county. The key dam which failed had its license revoked by federal regulators. The flooding was caused by the cresting of the Tibidiawasi, I know I butchered that river, and the river was expected to crest tonight. So more flooding will probably be there. So in the midst of a 100-year crisis, a global pandemic, and the worst flooding in 500 years. Welcome to Central Michigan. Next up, we have the pharmaceutical company, or rather the food company, Danone, said that it will place greater emphasis on its ESG goals by adopting the French Enterprise and Mission legal framework and setting up an independent committee to oversee its progress. The move is part of the company's aim to get the B Corp certification by 2025. The certification is issued by the nonprofit B Lab to companies that meet certain social and environmental criteria and make themselves legally accountable to balance interests of their various stakeholders, including shareholders. So an interesting move by Danone, and kudos to them for taking this move. Next up, VW settles emissions charges against 2 former senior executives. The CEO of the company and the chairman denied wrongdoing, yet Volkswagen agreed to pay the relative pittance of 9 million euros, which equates to about $10 million, to settle charges against 2 of its highest-ranking executives, who were accused by German prosecutors of failing to warn shareholders about the emission cheating scandal. In return, prosecutors will drop the charges against the former chairman, Heinz Dietrich Putsch, and the chief executive, Herbert Diess. The penalty is obviously much more modest than the 20 billion euros the company paid in connection with the scandal. So, pretty slick and good result for those VW executives from German prosecutors. And finally, the ghost of Carlos Ghosn rears its ugly head as Michael and Peter Taylor are arrested. They are alleged to have been involved in the smuggling of auto titan Carlos Ghosn out of Japan inside a musical equipment box. They were, Japan obviously is trying to get them extradited. Of course, in Trump world, there's no telling what will happen, because following laws, treaties, and anything else where he has to read is antithetical to the Trump religion of never doing anything by the book, by laws, or by rules. So it's going to be interesting to see what concessions he tries to take out of Japan to extradite these 2. But very interesting complaint in court filings. Federal prosecutors had fresh details of the Ghosn escape based upon information from the Japanese government, and it looks like this case has reared itself up. Will be back in the news. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to the 2, father and son, the former Green Beret and his son, and what happens to Carlos Ghosn going forward.
I hope you'll check out this month's 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance program, where I'm focusing on written standards. Also, I hope you will check out the Compliance Live, where we are featuring Ellen Hunt. And finally, I start a 5-part series on compliance programs in the banking industry and beyond, sponsored by K2 Intelligence Fin. Check all those out this week on the Compliance Podcast Network. Thanks for listening.